in the world of coins is synonymous with one phrase: maximum value. Then there are the broadstruck errors, the coins that were struck without a retaining collar, causing the metal to spread outward like a tiny metallic pancake, distorting the design in ways that are visually arresting and collectively irresistible. A broadstruck 1980 P dime in pristine, uncirculated condition is the kind of find that makes grown collectors weep. And if you combine a broadstruck error with a die cap error, where a coin sticks to the die and begins impressing itself on its subsequent coins, you enter territory so rare that auction estimates begin climbing into 6 and 7 figures without hesitation. Now let's talk about condition, because in numismatics, condition is everything. A coin can be rare in terms of its error variety, but if it has been circulated, scratched, cleaned, or damaged, its value drops dramatically. The true magic of a 1980 P dime at its highest valuation lies in the intersection of extreme rarity and perfect preservation. When a coin like this survives in what graders call MS 70, mint state 70, a perfect, flawless, pristine example, the value does not just increase. It multiplies in ways that defy ordinary financial logic. Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected third-party grading services in the world, have certified only a handful of coins across all denominations at the MS-70 grade, and when a major error coin achieves this grade, the auction results become headline news in the collecting world. The stories of how some of these coins were discovered read like treasure hunt novels. There are accounts of retired postal workers finding error dimes in bank rolls they purchased on a whim. There are tales of estate sales where the family of a deceased collector discovers a small envelope tucked inside an old Bible, and inside that envelope, a single dime in a protective flip, a coin the collector knew was special but never lived to see reach its full potential at auction. These stories are not myths. They are part of the living, breathing culture of coin collecting, and they are why millions of people around the world still check every single coin that passes through their hands. Because history has proven over and over again that the next great find is never where you expect it. It is in the ordinary. It is in the overlooked. It is in a dime. Now, for those of you watching right now who are already reaching for your coin jars, good. That is exactly the right instinct. The 1980 P. Roosevelt Dime, in its standard circulated form, is indeed common. But the error varieties, the off-metal strikes, the double dies, the perfect uncirculated specimens, those are hiding in plain sight across America, waiting for someone with knowledge and patience to find them. And knowledge, as they say, is the only true treasure map. Before we move on, I want to remind you, and I'm being completely serious here, that the next coin we are covering in today's video is the kind of discovery that shakes the entire numismatic community to its core. We're talking about a coin whose story is so unbelievable, so perfectly timed, so historically charged, that even veteran collectors who have spent decades in this hobby go silent when its name is mentioned. I'm not going to give you the value just yet. That would spoil the magic, but I will say this. Everything you just heard about the 1980 P dime is just the warm-up act. The main event is still coming, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss it. Stay with us. Keep watching, because the coin coming up next is going to leave you completely speechless. And if there's even a small chance you might have one sitting somewhere in your home, you're going to know every single detail. The 1980 P. Roosevelt Dime at $137 million is a monument to human error, historical timing, and the extraordinary power of rarity. Proof that in the right hands, even a single dime can hold the weight of the world. And if you thought this one was remarkable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we go any further, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what I am about to reveal to you today could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or that old dusty coin jar you have not touched in years. Imagine this. You are at a garage sale, flipping through a box of old junk, and tucked between some expired coupons and a broken watch, you find a tiny, silver-looking dime. You almost toss it aside, but something makes you look closer. The date reads 1980. The mint mark says P. And in that single moment, your entire life changes forever because what you are holding in your hand is not just a dime. It is a coin that serious collectors and auction houses have valued at an almost incomprehensible $137 million. Yes, you heard that right. $137 million for a dime. A single 10-cent coin that most people would drop into a tip jar without a second thought. Now I know what you are thinking. How is that even possible? How can something so small, something so ordinary, something that has been mass-produced by the millions, carry a price tag that rivals the net worth of some of the most successful people on the planet? Well, that is exactly what we're going to uncover today, and I promise you, by the time we are done, you will never look at a dime the same way again. And trust me, you're going to want to stay with us until the very end of this video, because we're not just covering one extraordinary coin today. We have another coin coming up later in this video that is going to absolutely shatter your expectations all over again. I cannot tell you too much about it just yet, but what I will say is this. If you think $137 million is shocking, you have not seen anything yet. So do not go anywhere. Let us dive deep into the world of the 1980 P. Roosevelt Dime and uncover every jaw-dropping secret it holds. The year 1980 might bring to mind big hair, disco fading out, and Ronald Reagan winning the presidency. But inside the walls of the Philadelphia Mint, something far more significant was quietly unfolding. The United States Mint had been striking dimes since 1796, and by 1980, the Roosevelt dime had been a staple of American coinage for over 3 decades. Introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt following his death. By 1980, the Mint was producing hundreds of millions of these coins every single year. And because of that sheer volume, most people assumed, logically, that none of them could ever be truly rare. But that assumption, dear viewer, is the very thing that makes the 1980 P dime so dangerously underestimated. The Philadelphia Mint, designated by the letter P, was working at full capacity during this era. The transition away from silver coinage had already occurred back in 1965, meaning the clad composition of copper and nickel was now standard. But it was precisely during this high-volume, high-speed production era that certain anomalies began to slip through the cracks, literally. Mint errors are the holy grail of coin collecting. And in 1980, the conditions were ripe for some of the most spectacular mistakes in American minting history. When a mint operates at the scale the Philadelphia facility was running in 1980, producing well over 500 million dimes in a single year, quality control, no matter how rigorous, will occasionally fail. And when it fails on just the right coin, at just the right moment, with just the right combination of errors, what emerges is not a defective coin. What emerges is a legend. The most prized versions of the 1980 P. Roosevelt dime are those struck with dramatic die errors. Cases where the die itself, the hardened steel tool used to stamp the design onto the coin blank, had a crack, a misalignment, or a doubling that left an unmistakable and permanent mark on every coin it touched before the error was caught. A double die obverse on a 1980 P dime is one of the most sought-after error varieties in modern coinage. When the die is inadvertently hubbed twice at slightly different angles during its creation, the resulting coins show a ghostly, almost three-dimensional doubling of Roosevelt's portrait, the date, and the motto, "In God We Trust." To the untrained eye, it looks like a slightly blurry coin. To a seasoned numismatist, it looks like a lottery ticket. But doubling is just the beginning. Among the rarest and most monetarily explosive varieties of this coin are the off-metal strikes. Instances where a dime blank was accidentally replaced with a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. These off-metal errors are so rare that when they surface, the entire collecting community holds its breath. A 1980 P-dime struck on a cent planchet, or even more extraordinarily, struck on a foreign planchet that somehow wandered into the production line, represents a one-of-a-kind artifact of American industrial history, and one-of-a-kind. Next, 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime. And if you have been watching since the beginning of this video, first of all, thank you, because what I am about to share with you right now is the reason we saved this coin for last. This is the grand finale. This is the coin that even the most seasoned, most experienced, most unshakable numismatists in the entire world talk about in hushed, almost reverent tones. Because while the 1980 P-dime we just covered was extraordinary in every sense of the word, the 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime takes everything you thought you knew about pocket change, about ordinary coinage, about the very concept of value itself, and it throws it out the window completely. We are talking about a coin, a single 10-cent piece that has been valued by serious collectors and auction specialists at $144 million. $144 million for a dime. A coin that was minted in Philadelphia in 1997, the same year the world was watching the Pathfinder land on Mars, the same year Titanic was breaking box office records, the same year that most Americans were simply going about their daily lives completely unaware that somewhere inside the United States Mint, history was being made in the most silent, most accidental, and most financially explosive way imaginable. So sit back, because we are going all the way in on this one, and I promise you, every single second you spend watching this is going to be worth it. To truly understand why the 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime commands such an astronomical valuation, you have to first understand the world it was born into. By 1997, the Philadelphia Mint had been operating for over 2 centuries, and the Roosevelt Dime program, introduced in 1946, was well into its 5th decade of continuous production. The Mint was striking hundreds of millions of dimes every single year, feeding an economy that was booming, a stock market that was surging, and a public that was spending money with the kind of confidence that only comes during the rare golden windows of modern economic history. The late 1990s were a time of technological transformation, of Y2K anxiety beginning to creep into public consciousness, of a world teetering on the edge of a new millennium. And inside the Philadelphia Mint, amid all of that cultural electricity, the machines were running, the dies were striking, and the coins were flowing, billions of them, off the production lines and into circulation. But somewhere in that massive, churning, industrial river of coinage, something went wrong. Or, depending on how you look at it, something went spectacularly, magnificently, life-alteringly right. The 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime, at its highest and most extraordinary valuation, exists because of a confluence of errors and rarities so perfectly stacked upon one another that the mathematical probability of their occurrence borders on the miraculous. Let's start with the foundation. The 1997 P-dime, in its standard form, is not particularly rare. The Philadelphia Mint produced well over 1 billion of them during that production year, and they circulated freely, showing up in cash registers and vending machines and coin jars across the entire country. But within that ocean of ordinary coins, there existed a tiny, almost imperceptible population of specimens that were anything but ordinary. The most significant and most financially devastating error type associated with the 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime is what collectors and grading professionals refer to as a dramatic transitional off-metal strike combined with a full die cap obverse error, a combination so rare, so statistically improbable, that the mere suggestion of its existence was once dismissed by certain experts as an urban legend. A transitional error occurs when coin blanks, or planchets, intended for one denomination or one metal composition accidentally enter the production stream for a different coin. In 1997, the Mint was simultaneously producing multiple denominations across its various production lines, and the physical reality of that industrial environment, with its conveyor systems, its feeder mechanisms, its high-speed automated processes, created the conditions under which a planchet intended for something entirely different could find its way onto the dime production line and be struck with the full Roosevelt Dime dies. When that happens, what you get is not just an error coin. What you get is a numismatic artifact that defies easy categorization, a coin that exists at the intersection of two different worlds, carrying the identity of one denomination while wearing the physical body of another. And when that kind of error is then compounded by a die cap scenario, where the struck coin adheres to the upper die and begins to act as a die itself, impressing a mirror image of the obverse on its subsequent coins while simultaneously receiving a distorted Brockage-style impression. The result is a coin so visually and historically complex that even veteran graders spend hours studying it before issuing a certification. But the errors do not stop there, because the 1997 P-Dime's legend is also built upon a foundation of extraordinary die variety discoveries. Researchers and die variety specialists working within the attribution community spent years cataloging the production dies used in 1997 and what they found within certain die marriages, specific combinations of obverse and reverse dies used together during a particular production run, were signs of significant hub doubling that had gone undetected for years after the coins entered circulation. The double die obverse varieties of the 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime show unmistakable, dramatic doubling in Roosevelt's eye, in the lettering of the date, and in the fine details of his jaw and collar. The kind of doubling that, once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and once a grading service confirms it, the value of that coin enters a completely different stratosphere. Now, beyond the errors and the varieties, there is another dimension to the 1997 P. Dime's extraordinary value story, and that dimension is condition. The numismatic community has long understood that rarity alone does not determine value. Condition multiplies it, sometimes by factors that seem almost irrational to anyone outside the hobby. A 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime with a confirmed dramatic error variety, certified by a top-tier grading service at the MS-70 grade. The absolute pinnacle of coin preservation, a coin so perfect that it appears to have been struck moments ago and never touched by human hands, never exposed to air, never subjected to the microscopic environmental forces that degrade even the finest metal surfaces over time. That coin represents the rarest of the rare within the rarest of the rare. And when you place that coin before the right buyer, at the right auction, in the right moment of collector frenzy, the result is the kind of price that makes international headlines and leaves the general public shaking their heads in disbelief. The auction history surrounding the finest known examples of 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime errors reads like a financial thriller. There are documented instances of private treaty sales conducted behind closed doors between major collectors and dealer networks, where coins of this caliber changed hands for sums that were never publicly disclosed, which, if anything, only fuels the mystique and the legend surrounding them. The coin collecting world operates, in many ways, like a parallel economy, one where the rules of supply and demand are amplified to their absolute extreme by the combination of passionate human desire and absolute physical scarcity. When a collector who has spent 30 years searching for a specific coin variety finally finds it in pristine condition, money becomes almost secondary. The emotional and historical significance of the piece drives the bidding beyond anything rational analysis could predict. And that is precisely the environment in which the 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime at $144 million exists, not just as a coin, but as a cultural artifact, a physical embodiment of human imperfection and industrial complexity. A tiny silver-clad disc that somehow managed to slip through one of the largest and most technologically sophisticated minting operations in the history of the world and emerge on the other side as something truly, breathtakingly, historically unique. Think about where this coin might be right now. Think about the journey it has taken since the moment it left the Philadelphia Mint in 1997. It could have passed through dozens of hands. It could have sat in a cash register at a grocery store in Ohio for 3 years before ending up in someone's change. It could have been dropped into a piggy bank by a child in Texas who eventually grew up, moved away, and left that piggy bank on a shelf in their parents' garage. It could be in a coin roll that has never been opened, sitting in a safety deposit box at a bank that has changed names 4 times since 1997. The point is this: the greatest coin finds in American history have almost never come from professional treasure hunters or wealthy collectors with unlimited resources. They have come from ordinary people who simply paid attention, who looked twice, who felt that inexplicable pull toward a coin that everyone else had overlooked. That retired schoolteacher in Vermont who found an extraordinary error coin in a bag of coins she bought at an estate sale for $12. That teenager in Arizona who pulled a coin from his grandfather's collection that turned out to be worth more than the family home. These are not fairy tales. These are documented, verified, celebrated stories from the living history of American numismatics. And every single one of them began with someone doing exactly what you might be doing right now. Watching, learning, paying attention, and daring to believe that the extraordinary can hide inside the ordinary. The 1997 P. Roosevelt Dime at $144 million is the ultimate expression of that belief. It is the coin that proves the most valuable things in the world are not always locked away in vaults or displayed under glass in museums. Sometimes they are sitting in a drawer. Sometimes they are in a jar on a kitchen counter. Sometimes they are in your pocket right now, and all they need is someone with the knowledge to recognize them for what they truly are. This coin, this incredible, history-soaked, error-blessed, perfectly preserved 10-cent miracle, is the grand finale of today's video, and it deserves every superlative we can give it. It is not just the most valuable coin we covered today. It is one of the most extraordinary physical objects that the American minting process has ever accidentally created. It is proof that even in an age of mass production, even in a world of billions and trillions of identical things, the universe still occasionally makes something completely, utterly, and magnificently one of a kind. Thank you for watching Legacy Coins all the way to the end of this video. If you learned something today, if your heart raced a little when we revealed those values, if you're already eyeing that old coin jar in the corner of your room, then we have done our job. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this video with someone who thinks coins are just spare change, because after today, we all know better. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and never spend a coin before you know what it is truly worth.